Worried about paying your real estate broker out of pocket? Wondering how you're going to be able to afford it? Are there alternatives? Can sellers pitch in? Over the next few months, you're going to hear a lot about the new National Association of Realtors policies. The media, YouTube, real estate agents, and social media will be buzzing with information, making it easy to feel overwhelmed. But don't worry, I'm here to help you cut through the noise. Now in this video, I'll answer the 11 most common questions buyers are asking about these new rules. My goal is to bring you clarity and peace of mind. Whether it's your vacation home, your primary home, or you are relocating to Southwest Florida, buying a home should be an exciting journey, and I'm here to ensure it stays that way, even amidst all these changes. Now, if you find this information helpful, go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so others can enjoy this content as well. Welcome aboard. I'm Cessna, your Cape Coral Realtor. And if you'd like to know anything else about buying, selling, relocating, or investing here in Cape Coral, feel free to contact me. All my information is in the details below, and I can't wait to chat with you. Okay, let's dive in. Isn't working with a buyer's agent free? Well, it may have seemed that way because the seller usually covered the compensation. The truth is, the buyer's agent's fee was always included in the home's purchase price. Traditionally, the seller paid the full commission to the listing agent, who then shared it with the buyer's agent's brokerage. With the new rules, if the seller opts not to cover this fee, the buyer will need to pay their agent directly. And number two, do I have to sign a buyer-broker agreement? Yes, starting in mid-August, most buyers will need to sign an agreement to work with a buyer's agent, much like how sellers sign agreements with listing agents. While this may be new in some areas, many states have already required or strongly recommended buyer-broker agreements for years. An agreement will be necessary for an agent to represent you as a buyer. Currently, in many regions, no such agreement was required, but this will change with the new rules. The only exception will be open houses. You won't need an agreement to visit an open house hosted by a realtor. However, if you want your agent to accompany you, an agreement will need to be signed. Buyer-broker agreements can be based on the buyer's needs and the agent's practices. Some agreements may cover a single showing, while others may span a period of time and include multiple properties. Even if you decide to work with the listing agent, a buyer-broker agreement will still be required to be signed. And number three, how will my buyer's agent be compensated? There are two parts to this question. First, does signing a buyer-broker agreement mean you will definitely have to pay your agent's fee? Now, it depends. Many believe that the seller-paid compensation model will still prevail, meaning the seller will often cover the buyer-agent fees. However, if the seller's compensation doesn't fully cover the agreed-upon fee in the buyer-broker agreement, the buyer will need to pay the remaining balance. The follow-up question is, can you ask the seller to pay your buyer's agent's commission? Absolutely. In most cases, you'll know beforehand if a seller is willing to provide compensation. However, the seller has the right to decline. If they agree, your agent will include this in the offer for the property. Number four, do I need a buyer's agent? Won't it be easier to go directly to the listing agent? In a real estate transaction, there are typically two key players, the listing agent who represents the seller and the buyer's agent who represents the buyer. This dual representation ensures that both parties have their own dedicated advocate looking out for their best interest. If you, as the buyer, choose to work directly with the seller's agent, you may not receive the optimal representation that you deserve. The seller's agent's primary duty is to the seller, which can create conflict of interest. Having your own buyer's agent is crucial as they will work solely on your behalf, negotiating the best terms and conditions for you, guiding you through the complexities of the transaction, and ensuring that your interests are fully protected throughout the process. And number five, is it possible to negotiate a commission? Yes, commissions have always been negotiable. There are two key negotiation points. First, when hiring a buyer agent, you can negotiate the representation fee. You have the right to request a specific fee structure, and the agent has the right to state their fee. If you reach an agreement, that fee will be included in the buyer-broker agreement. If not, you are free to find another agent. The second negotiation occurs during the offer process. Before showing you a home, your agent will determine if the seller is willing to provide compensation and inform you. You can then decide if you still want to view that property. Now, even if the seller has stated no compensation, you can still make an offer requesting that your agent's fee be included. Once the seller has an offer, they might be willing to negotiate the fee based on the other terms. For instance, You could offer above the list price to cover the fee as long as the home appraises at that higher amount. And number 6, can I finance my buyer's agent's commission? Yes, depending on the local market. Now in some regions, you can write an offer asking the seller to provide a credit towards closing costs. However, in hotter markets, sellers are less likely to agree to such credits. Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac limit interested party contributions to between 2% and 9% of the property's values. These contributions include concessions from sellers, builders, real estate agents, and other parties who benefit from the sale. Initially, there was concern that seller-paid buyer agent commissions would count as concessions subject to IPC limits. However, federal housing regulations have clarified that sellers can continue to pay buyer agent commissions without affecting the limits on conventional and FHA loans. And number 7, I'm a veteran. If I use a VA loan, can I pay my buyer agent? Yes, recent updates to the VA loan policy now allow veterans to pay their buyer's agent commission directly. Effective August 10th, 2024, this change aims to help veterans stay competitive in the housing market. Now, previously, the VA did not permit buyers to pay these fees, causing issues when sellers were unwilling to cover the commission. However, there are specific conditions to be aware of, including the commission cannot be financed into the VA loan amount. The buyer must have sufficient liquid assets to cover the commission and other closing costs, and the commission must be disclosed in the closing disclosure and included in the sales contract. And number 8, can I get a credit back from the seller? Yes, depending on the local market, in some regions you can write an offer asking the seller to provide a credit towards closing costs. However, in hotter markets, sellers are less likely to agree to such credits. Initially, there was concern that buyer's agent compensation would count against the allowable credit limits set by various loan programs, reducing the amount available to buyers. However, seller compensation to the buyer's agent is separate from any credit provided by the seller to the buyer. And number 9, so if I have to pay the compensation myself, does this mean that home prices will be lower? Most likely not. In our free market, home prices are influenced by factors like inventory, buyer demand, interest rates, and the overall economy, not agent commissions. Budge Husky, President and CEO of Premier Sotheby's International Realty, explains general values in real estate are determined by the fundamentals of supply and demand, not realtors. Yes, the commission is a transaction expense, just like title fees, closing fees, mortgage-related expenses, property taxes, and association fees. Even if real estate commissions were reduced by 1%, a $500,000 home would only drop to $495,000. That's a small difference and unlikely to impact affordability. And number 10, what if I don't have enough money to cover the buyer's agent's commission and the closing costs? This is one of the significant challenges of the new settlement. According to Gary Acosta, co-founder and CEO of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals, forcing buyers to pay out of pocket for an agent to represent them through the process would only exacerbate affordability challenges and put home ownership out of reach for millions of would-be buyers. A ban on broker cooperation would benefit no one but the wealthiest among us. So what is this lawsuit all about? Now, in the early 1990s, consumer advocacy groups began pushing for more effective buyer representation. Until then, buyers had no guarantee of dedicated representation or assurance that their agent would be compensated. The local MLS organizations, under agreements with the National Association of Realtors, NAR, agreed to list all local properties on one site and include offers of cooperative compensation from sellers on each listing. This ensured that buyers' agents knew what they would earn if they closed a deal. The seller would pay a commission to the listing brokers, which would then pay the buyer's agent from that commission. This system worked well for many years. However, recently, some sellers sued NAR, claiming the system kept commissions artificially high and prevented buyers from negotiating their own compensation. In a landmark class action lawsuit, the jury agreed, and NAR proposed a settlement that would remove compensation display from the MLS. NAR and some realtors disagree with the ruling. NAR denies any wrongdoing, stating on March 15, 2024, that the settlement, which is subject to court approval, makes clear that NAR continues to deny any wrongdoing in connection with the multiple listing service cooperative compensation model rule, the MLS model rule. Now, that was introduced in the 1990s in response to calls from consumer protection advocates for buyers' representation. Now, regardless of opinions on the lawsuit and the settlement, the new rules have already taken effect as of August 17, 2024, adding complexity to the home buying process. Now, the bottom line is that previous system for sellers to offer cooperative compensation to a buyer's agent through the MLS will no longer exist. and buyers may need to pay their agent's fee if sellers choose not to. Wow, that was a lot of information. My goal was to clarify, not overwhelm. So let's do a quick recap. Summary: navigating the new National Association of Realtors rules on buyer-broker agreements can be confusing, but understanding the key points can help you make informed decisions. Number one, compensation. Historically, buyer's agents were compensated by the seller through the home's purchase price. With the new rules, buyers might need to cover their agent's fee if the seller chooses not to. Now, number two, the buyer-broker's agreement. Most buyers will now be required to sign a buyer-broker agreement similar to how sellers sign agreements with listing agents. Number three, negotiating commissions. Now, commissions have always been negotiable. You can negotiate the representation fee with your buyer's agent and also request the seller to pay it during the offer process. Number four, financing commissions. Depending on the local market, you might be able to finance your buyer agent's commission by asking the seller for a credit towards closing costs. And number five, VA loans. Veterans using VA loans can now pay their buyer's agent's commission directly through specific conditions do apply. Number six, credits from sellers. It's still possible to ask for a credit from the seller towards closing costs, separate from any compensation to the buyer's agent. Number seven, home prices. Home prices are influenced by the market factors, not agents' commissions. Even if commissions change, it's unlikely to significantly impact the home prices. And number eight, dedicated buyer's agent. Having a buyer's agent ensures you have dedicated representation looking out for your best interest. Number nine, the lawsuit. A recent lawsuit led to changes in the compensation system, removing the display of cooperative compensation from the MLS. This might mean buyers will need to pay their agent's fee if the seller opts not to. By understanding these aspects, you can better navigate the home buying process under the new NAR rules, ensuring you make the best decisions for your situation. I'm Barry Cessna, your Cape Coral real estate agent, and if you'd like to know anything else about buying, selling, relocating, or investing here in Cape Coral, feel free to contact me. All my information is in the details below, and I can't wait to chat with you, making realty dreams a reality.